Okay, we're live now. Welcome to Canada Bangladesh Social Justice Action Research Alliance. We organize critical and courageous conversations about local issues and global issues that is connected to equity, fairness, and social justice. I am privileged to be in company with Elizabeth Costa. We had this conversation scheduled in August 8. Unfortunately, because of my family's loss, I couldn't have that conversation. I'm really excited to be able to organize this conversation. And I know Elizabeth is sick. She has fever, but despite her health condition, she has been extremely generous and kind to be part of this conversation. Elizabeth De Costa is a Bangladeshi filmmaker, and today we will talk about her film, Bangla Surf Girls. And I had the opportunity of watching that film. I have so many questions, and I often say this. I don't know if there is a better way to say this in English, but I use the Bangla phrase saying that there's a difference between চোখের দেখা এবং দেখার চোখ. So when I watched it, I was so moved. I was moved to tears, and I was thinking, and I reached out to Elizabeth saying that, I am so immensely proud that, universe, God, however you want to define it, has given you that feeling and compassion in your heart to be able to see that we all can't see. Elizabeth, welcome to our conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much, for inviting me in this conversation. Like, I'm really excited about today's, how we move forward from here.
Yeah. So today we will have probably a very, the Bangla word is adda, like a very informal adda over a cup of coffee. I mean, obviously, Elizabeth goes to very academic spaces, and she teaches and she travels across the world. So I don't know if we'll be able to have a conversation of that standard in the midst of maestros and prodigies and all those incredibly talented people. Before we start the conversation, I was wondering if we can quickly show the clip of trailer of Elizabeth's documentary. One quick second, Elizabeth.
যেগুলো আগে হয়েছিল সেগুলো ফেলে দিও, সামনের গুলা বাপিয়ে আমার রাস্তা আমি বেছে নিছি। এখন হলো নিজের স্বাধীন। My name is Shabamaya. I am surfer. এক দেশে যাব, সার্ফিং কম্পিটিশন করব, তারপরে ফেমাস হয়ে যাব, সেটা আমার স্বপ্ন। টিভিতে যদি দেখে ফেমাস হয়ে যায় তাহলে আব্বু তো এমনি চলে আসবে। আগে কোথায় আসছিলাম বা আগে, তারপর আমি বিচে যেয়ে আন্ডা করতাম, তারপরে সবাইকে বিক্রি করে দিতাম। সার্ফিং আমরা দেখলে তাকিয়ে থাকতাম। তো রাশেদে বলতেছে একদিন বান্ধবীরা সার্ফিং করবা, আর কিছু আশা না। আমি আমার আম্মুর মতো হতে চাই না, আমি আমার মতো হব। ডেলি না আমাদের ভালো লাগে, আর মন সাগরের মধ্যে চলে যায়। বলে লোকে বলে সার্ফিং এ যায় যে ওরা মাগি ইন্ডিকে করে যারা খেলা ফেন বাজি বেশায়ের জন্য করতে করতে হতে মনে করি বাসায় চলে আসবো, আর মনেও করবো না যে আমি সার্ফিং আসি। সেটা আমার ভবিষ্যৎ আমি ঠিকঠাক না পারলে আর কেউ ঠিক করতে পারবে। যতক্ষণ সার্ফিং করতে আমি ততক্ষণ ভালো লাগে, নাহলে এমনিতে ভালো লাগে। তো কীভাবে চলবে, কোনো প্ল্যানিং নেই, সবগুলো এখানে নেই সার্ফিং। মানে আমার রক্তের সাথে মিশে গেছে সার্ফিং, এটা মানে এরকম একটা জিনিস।
I don't think anyone would debate the powerful story this documentary film tells. Elizabeth, for our audience who haven't had the opportunity to watch the entire documentary film, could you tell us about the context? What is this documentary film about, and what is the story that you try to tell in that documentary film?
Well, Bangla Surf Girls is a story about three girls from Cox's Bazar. which is, for those who don't know, which is the world's longest sea beach. That's in Bangladesh, and these girls are actually from this area, and I observed them for the last 3 years, and yeah, this film talks about the freedom and dream, and through surfing, that's surfing is like a metaphor for them. It's like through surfing they're trying to live their dreams and find freedom. So we will see how they do it through surfboards.
Before we go into the story of these three girls, I wanted to know, obviously, we say this all the time, that when you're writing as a writer, you write yourself into the things that you write. As the filmmakers, we also write ourselves in the films. Could you tell us a bit about your journey into becoming a filmmaker? Because probably we don't have a lot of Bangladeshi woman filmmaker, and there are a lot of historical and social, political, cultural context. Could you just give us a bit of an understanding that who is Elizabeth, the filmmaker?
I can see where you're going. I knew. Yeah, it's nice question. I love this kind of question. Makes me think, and I love thinking and imagination and observation. I think that's something. Recently, someone asked me, "Why do I run after stories? Why do the stories needs to be? That's like this is the story. Why do I do that?" And honestly, it took me. I was eating, but I wasn't concentrating on food. I was thinking and thinking, and I think I realized it's my curiosity. I've been curious. I've been really curious since I was a child. I remember, like, there are little bits and pieces, I would say, experience that I remember. There was a game, Bangladesh cricket team was playing, and I was so excited, and I was just screaming in the house, and my dad might be watching this, and he literally came up to me and he was like, "You're a girl, you're not going to shout like that, like boys." And I was like, "Oh yeah." Then I went to the kitchen and I got 2 pans, and I was basically like banging those pans with my hand and say, "Well, if I'm not screaming, at least these pans are going to scream." So it's kind of, I have been like this rebel, or I try to find things. Like, I was curious, like, why girl can do this, why there are rules for. I'm not saying like all girls and boys. I'm not differentiating in gender, but to me this curiosity was there, like why I have to always prove myself. Why do I have to, if I want something, I have to think about it. If I'm going outside, I have to think about what I'm wearing. Small stuff like that. And I never wanted to do something that's like, my family is, it's like culture family. Like, they always encourage the kids to. My grandpa, he always encouraged, like, all my grandkids will learn something. I don't know, like dancing or keyboard or harmonium or screaming or yelling, something. And everyone will have to learn something that they feel good about. And that led me to think about myself. And I didn't want to do something that is like, it doesn't serve purpose. I'm not saying that any job is not serving purpose. Like, everyone is serving their purposes through, like, even small jobs people are doing. I respect them too. But I wanted something creative, something that gives this, through art, through music, through imagination, that gives people this space to think about something, or opens a new door. And yeah, I was enrolled in ULAB, University of Liberal Arts Bangladesh, in business studies. And within one day, I changed my course to media studies and journalism, because I was looking at the leaflet every day, like, for a month. Like, I wanted that course, but because my dad wanted me to take business studies, I took that. But my heart wasn't there. And I think my heart was, with creating something. And when my lecturer asked me that, why do you want to be in this course? And I was like, because I want to create something. I don't know what, just create something that start a conversation, that leads to somewhere, not only in Bangladesh, worldwide. And I think the journey started from there. And I'm glad I had, on the way of making this film, I had amazing, greatest mind behind it as a mentor, friends, family. They have been through a lot with me, um, tolerating my pamper. you know, I was going through a lot of ups and downs, and yeah, I think that was the crucial journey. But I was able to walk hand in hand with my friends, family, and mentors. That's what I should say. Yeah, today I'm here.
Yeah. I can imagine that what must have been feeling your father must have gone through.
Oh
By the
yeah.
way, I mean, I'm glad. I'm really glad to hear that you found the spirit to follow your passion, and not everybody. I'm going to bring in 3 points to segue to our next question. John Dewey, actually, which is also the same thing that Rabindranath Tagore has said, is that every child is born um, with the curiosity to
Yes.
want to know, to follow, to understand. But then the society can't have people growing up with that free spirit, because and then they will start questioning. So the responsibility of the society is to beat that um, that creative personality, the creative entity in and out of that child as soon as possible, in order to make them an obedient citizen, somebody who abides by all of that. um, I think Maya Angelou once said that nothing, there are very few pain in the world that the untold story that brews in all of us. It's a very difficult pain to bear, to put up with. So the question that I want to ask about Bangla Surf Girl, with the reference of Donna Haraway, a very prominent American feminist scholar, posthumous scholar, not African American scholar, I'm sorry, Donna Haraway, she talked about the politics of story. We humans are storytelling beings. It matters the stories the world. Your selection of the story that in Bangladesh, three girls choosing a journey, which is very difficult. And the thing that I love the best about this film is that it did not, it went into the nitty gritty of understanding, exposing the social fabric where these girls are operating. So what made you choose this story? Why did you want to tell this story?
Um, yeah, I think the first thing that connected me with these girls were how they were able to live their dreams again and repeating. It's because the first thing they say to me is that just because we live in the slum doesn't mean we can't dream. And I think dream is where I connected with them, and the passion for going forward with, behind this dream, not giving up. Um, of course, I won't say that I totally understand them, because I come from a middle class family. At least I had the education, I had my parents, I had people who were my icon. But for them, it's hard. There were no, yeah, they didn't grow up seeing their father and mother as an icon. They were in an area where murder keeps happening, crimes are there, education doesn't matter. um, but still, these little girls, it's just like they're 12, 13, and but the thinking f- in that age made me more curious to bring their stories, because they unlike other girls, they had that fire and a fire, maybe I could see it, me too. um, a fire that I could relate immediately, that, no matter what happens, they wanted to go ahead. Um, no matter what happens, they wanted to learn, they wanted to understand the world, and the context of being in a society where it's like you get this simple question. When I was filming them, they were like, Elizabeth, why, you know why these men are harassing my sister? And I was like, yeah, what do you mean by that? And they were like, yeah, my sister is not answering because she is older and she feels ashamed. Why men do that? They go, I mean, if they come to me, I'll just punch on their nose. I mean, she's very young. She was like 12, but her sister was like 15, 16 by then. So I was like, wow, like the amount of thinking, the way they think, it's different. So that made me more, go deeper into their life and understand. And I'm glad they were comfortable sharing, the raw emotions with me. And I think the understanding between these girls and me were that, the world, they wanted to show their stories to the world. They were ready to, they knew that they're really like uncommon kids. That they knew. So I think that's something they wanted the world to see. Did I answer your question?
Yes, of course. I'm sure that when you went in there, let's say if I did not watch the film and I just saw
Mhm.
the trailer, given that, like you, I was born and raised in Bangladesh, so I have a lot of reference points. With that, I can sort of extrapolate, sort of like understand, oh, this is the class relation, gender relation, social location relation. But you, like me, born and raised in Bangladesh, what are the things that while making the documentary film that you have discovered that shocked you, surprised you, that you, despite being born and raised in Bangladesh, did not think like that surprised you?
Well, there were many moments. There were many moments. Even today, I was thinking, like, I thought I've, I'm learning every day. I say that even before my death, I'll keep on learning. Um, I think I've learned a lot from these girls. I've learned humanity. I've learned how, despite being in a we say poverty, being in a social circumstances, they were still smiling. The smile that can, take your breath away like within a few seconds. I was shocked to see the amount of strength these girls had, because I thought they will be, even they were ready to, like, we don't care, we'll save you, stuff like that. I'm like, okay. um, they didn't think like, they will have to. Um, there were moments when I was in their home, they didn't feel uncomfortable because they were so welcoming towards me. And I remember, for one filming, I took my mom, and she entered in one of the house. She walked out. She came back home with me, and she said, "Wow, I never imagined, like, being in a." It's a preconcept. I'm not insulting anyone. Um, my mom said, "Wow, I never imagined a house in the slum can be this clean." Like, I stayed in that house. I spent a night at Shuma's house. Um, the concept that we have in our head, like, oh, okay, the people who live there are, they're not clean, no hygiene, stuff like that. I think it's, yeah, that's like a mindset that was changed. I was able to spend more time and see how the society was looking at them. But there were challenges. There were times when they were, they were really upset, sad, but at the same time, they walked back, like they stood up. I mean, if you hear Shobe, I think Shobe says once, like, her life is like a wave. She keeps on falling, but she stand back up. So yeah, I mean, that's something um, I've learned being with them and my journey, a lot. And there are a lot. I can keep on talking, but these girls has given me a lot of reason to look at life differently. Let's say it this way.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, if I'm not wrong, I think Leonard Cohen once said that, we talk about, and I have been reflecting about it in the recent days a lot, is that in a predominantly capitalistic society, how we are obsessed with the feelings of happiness, how we don't. I'm not in any shape or form romanticizing heartful sadness. No, not at all. And I personally feel very triggered when somebody romanticizes poverty. It's without seeing its cruelty. I think I once heard a black activist saying, particularly when the elite Americans say, "Oh, the black people don't want a handout," and all that kind of things. That surprising that poor people don't romanticize poverty. I think Leonard Cohen once said that your loneliness is also political. Your hard feelings, the way
Yeah.
we cope with our difficulties. Um, how do you think that your subjectivity as a Bangladeshi woman has helped you to understand their subjectivities in many ways? And where did you struggle to understand their subjectivity because you were raised in a certain way? And I'll give you a bit of context because of that. I was born and raised in a village in Bangladesh. But when I go there and I see the absolute honesty, and I might be burnt at stake for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. But it feels like I'm constantly in exile. I go back to my village, but I don't go back to my village. I go back to home, but I don't go back to my home. And I feel that my time in academia for over 2 decades in many ways have changed me, has made me a person that I sometimes don't recognize, not sometimes, all the time. I mean, if I anything, I understand the kind of stranger that I am. So the question is that how your subjectivity has helped you to understand their subjectivity, and how your subjectivity think was a barrier to understand their subjectivity.
Hello.
Yeah, yeah. Go on. Did you
I
hear my
think I
question?
missed your last sentence, very last
Okay,
sentence.
I'm sorry. I said that, and I say this with brutal honesty, that you have gone through an academic process. Dare I say that's pretty Eurocentric in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and I ask the same thing to myself. The question is that how do you think that your subjectivity has helped you to understand their subjectivity? At the same time, how your subjectivity has been a barrier to understand their subjectivity.
Well, this is so, I can see you're laughing. Um, how should I say this? I'm an empath, and the reason I'm saying this, I think it's something. Let me break it down a little bit. I can already see one question is also, I think that relates a little bit. When I when I started,
Let me
sorry,
take this question anyway, so that we can relate this.
yeah.
That Elizabeth, if we take the film as a research document, how did you navigate hierarchies of gender, class, and religion at all in between you and the participants in the process of making the film? Also, did you experience any ethical questions, complexities, guilt in the process of making the film, given your location of privilege in accessing information? Well, Shongita is a researcher. She is one of those breeds who are asking the questions for completing her PhD, so you can understand the questions will be critical. She's a very good friend of mine. Sorry, go on.
No problem, no problem. I mean, I love these kind of questions. What I was trying to say that when I realized when I was, I mean, first I started my career working in fiction with Tariq and Catherine Masood, right? And that time, um, documentary, the whole world of documentary was kind of, I kind of heard, or sorry, I kind of understood a little bit, but not that much. It took me a long time. And by the time I first understood what is this documentary, like why, what do we do with human life, or why we're telling their stories, I started to realize that this is something I love, I would love doing. It's because observation is something, like I love observing people with my heart, definitely. But at the same time, there were moments when I was making this film, I figured out this. There were complex moments. Me being empath, and I'm saying empath. It's because just because they are poor, I didn't want to show them any pity, and just because I come from, I never felt it around them, like, oh, Elizabeth is from Dhaka, city girl, and then she has luxurious life, nothing like that. They already understood that I was that rebel of my father. I was that rebel daughter of my father who tried to break the barrier of being minority in Bangladesh, and I tried to speak up. Um, and had the really love for the country and for the people, but while I was there, their trust was there. At the same time, I felt my me being empath also became my curse. It became curse in a way that I could feel for them a lot, and there were moments I wanted to solve problems. I wanted to, just keep I'm a human. I wanted to keep my camera off and just go and solve it. Take them with me in my home. um, but throughout that process, I realized it is not possible. This is actually going to hinder the me being, coming from Dhaka city and city girl and trying to save their life. It's something like, someone from outside the country trying to get in and then save the whole life. You know how what I mean? Like, I cannot be that savior like that. I have to stick to my storytelling. And the storytelling, if they trust me, and if the story, as a storyteller, if I can bring their story out, I think only then we will be able to work hand in hand. And you know um, sorry, I'm just like gibbering right now in my head. It's just like that trust was there, and I had to take these hard decisions. we I talked about this with my mentors. It wasn't easy for me. It was a new experience. I never, uh, even if for small projects before this film, I used to do small projects for other NGOs or INGOs, and I went to different places, and I could feel like anytime within, let's say, 2 days when I'm leaving, people are like, "Oh, Maya lege geche." Like we have lots of love for you. Um, I could feel that I had that tendency of, um, bringing an energy and bringing everyone together under one umbrella. And sometimes it was not easy. It was through the storytelling process. Sometimes I had to be really cruel to myself, and I wouldn't say like inhuman cruel again. Like there is like lots of check and balance, tiny nitty gritty check and balance. I was ready to take on as a challenge. That's something I was ready, and I should thank my producer Lalita Krishna for that. It's because those things I don't learn. You learn those things not in a school, not in a university, not in film schools. Those I felt I was learning on the way of my journey with the girls, and I think unconsciously they taught me, um, you know, without being the savior, how I can bring them and at least give them the, yeah, this is your backbone. You stand up. I'm not going to help you I can only show different paths, and the choice is yours.
In terms of these two particular notion, and you can only understand. I often say this to people. I'm a researcher. I'm a father. I'm a teacher. Um, I say this that in order to be an educator, more than knowing, it's important to be able to have the soul of a teacher. I don't know if that makes sense. I sometimes I fear that it gets lost in the crowd of new age discourses, understanding that what does it mean. But if I want to be brutally honest and put on my researcher hat, I'll also say that when we somehow think ourselves in any setup, and I constantly have to remind myself because, research location, to me, documentary film has
Mhm.
striking similarity with research process.
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
So when we somehow think ourselves to be a savior or helper, we automatically, unknowingly, unconsciously cater to our narcissistic impulse, and we create a hierarchy: the helper and the
Mhm.
helped. So what happens that we slide into that dichotomy, and there's one particular moment for one of the three girls, Shobe. She was saying this at the start, not in the trailer, at the start of the documentary film that I watched, that I understand everything. She's talking about the complexity, the story that her family is talking about, wedding her off to a man, going some foreign country, or giving some job, and then she's questioning that why would somebody take you abroad? What's the reason behind it? Why somebody is going to spend 50,000 taka behind you? Now, I tell you this story with a heavy heart, at the same time, something that I have been dealing with for a very, very long time, is that I work with the young kids, young students of rural Bangladesh. And one of the hardest challenges to fight is basically child marriage. So sometimes you literally feel your hands tied. You can't fight against the parents, like a girl who's 11 years old gets wed off. But you and I, or all those who go through the academic processes, or we call ourselves quote unquote educated, we unconsciously fall into the hubris of knowing, assuming some kind of intellectual philosophical superiority over those who don't speak a certain discourse, who don't speak a certain language. You have said already quite a few times that you have learned a lot from these girls. Now, I'll take you out of the story into the society and say it from experience. In what are the ways you see that we, either coming from city, either coming from academic setup, either coming from some kind of privileged position, we walk into these spaces assuming our superiority consciously and unconsciously, not knowing that we are in um, that role.
But absolutely, we do that, right? I mean, I wouldn't disagree with that. There are lots of moments. I always say, even day before yesterday. I'm sorry, like I'm going outside of this film right now.
Mhm, mhm,
Day before yesterday, I when I was in the camp, Ringa camp, I was going crazy to meet one of my participants. Because I knew him for such a long time since the influx started. Because in 2018, um, when I was doing small work for different networks as a stringer, I met this guy, and he definitely, I had this pre notion in my head, right? Like every media was saying, they're the poor community, they're not educated enough, they're not, I mean, a lot of I should say, like, themes were there. Like if you say Rohingya, it's already in your imagination. When I spoke to him, and he showed me a different world. He said stuff that they had the culture, they had the tradition, and how they had their own civilization, even. And I was like, okay. So I myself went there knowing what I was seeing in media. Then I met this person who changed my whole. Definitely, I'm not ashamed of saying. You're laughing, but I'm not ashamed of saying that, because we all do that. We come from this pre-notion in our head, and go to different places, and we think, oh, okay, you know, it's about when you go to this place, whether you are ready to allow yourself to learn something new. I think that's how I look at it. Whether I'm ready to let in what I'm learning. If I'm not, like, I can just do this, I know everything. That's something hard for me to do, because I don't think I know everything. And when I say that this with these girls, I've learned a lot. One thing I've learned to, like, look at everything very simple, with a simple eye. Um, Even when I talk nowadays, I'm like breaking it so into pieces to make it very simple. I think that's something, I don't know, being with them, that's something I've learned. And when Shabe is saying stuff like, she understands everything, she meant every single word. She, these girls understood life's hardship, life in general, by what, 12, 13. I didn't have to think of those when I was 12, 13. Did you? Like, I'm going to ask you this question. So, what? No, I'm like actually asking you this question real time.
Oh yeah, I mean the kind of realities that I had to navigate, in the kind of circumstances. I mean, I am the first in my family to attend university. I mean, nobody. I have 11 siblings, so I'd have to walk 8 miles a day to attend school. So sleep nights after nights without food in the stomach. It will teach you things. Like I often say these things to you, that you think that books only give you knowledge, wisdom. When your survival instinct kicks in to understand
Yeah.
your social realities, it reaches the wisdom in you that you did not know that you knew yourself. You did not knew that. I mean, I often say this, that it's quoting Zalaluddin Rumi, is that I
Yeah.
have given up the cleverness, and I have taken up the wonder to understand. So yes, if you ask me personally, is that yes, I had to navigate extremely
Mhm.
difficult social, economic, cultural circumstances coming from the social location that I come from, but I had gender privilege. But from very early on in my life, I always worked double, triple hard
Yeah.
to excel in academic places, to appear clever, to appear the intelligent person, to appear as somebody who knew the answer, because knowing the answer, appearing smart, was the only social capital I had to get out of poverty, hunger, where I was. So now at this position in my life, I literally don't want to remember or don't want to tell myself that I know anything. And if you look, Elizabeth, honestly, is that I think what makes us cruel is not things that we don't know. What makes us cruel is that we think we know and our knowing becomes our conviction. So
Yeah.
our conviction is a very stubborn blindness, very stubborn blindness. Like, I don't know, when I was a kid, I thought, guys are superior than girls.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to unlearn that.
No, I mean to add with that, it's just sorry I cut you in between.
No, go on.
That reminds me of, like, in the beginning, I wouldn't lie. Everyone or the girls and their family thought, I was born this. Let's say it this way. I was born like a woman who works in who worked in UN, who worked in BBC, who worked with people like Tariq and Catherine Masood, who worked internationally with news channels. Um, I think that it was like in their head, even this is how I was born. But it was also both way communication. I think it took a lot from me to actually share the whole me or my story, my journey. I I've seen my family. We lived in one room apartment when we were really young. I've seen my mom saving bit of rice, not being able. She didn't even express that there was no rice for herself, but she made sure that we both sisters were eating. I never talked about that with her, like, until I was like, what, um, I think 5 or 6 years back. I said that to her, like, I knew that what she did. um, and I shared those memories with these girls. This is how deeper connection I had with these girls and their family. Is that I wasn't born this way. I I think I immediately knew what I had to do. I think I immediately um, knew that I want to, I really want to do something that makes my family proud of me. Absolutely, that's something every daughter wants. That their father will say that I'm proud of you. um, I think that's we're two sisters, so definitely I'm the being youngest one. I was the rebel, and my elder sister was the only one who's like always listening to my parents. Um, yeah, then the girls started asking me questions about my past, about how I came this far, and definitely I had to answer their questions too. It was vice versa both way. They had lots of curiosity about my life, and by the time they started to get to know me more better, they said, we want to be Elizabeth. If someone asking them, what do you want to be when you grow up, they're like, we want to be Elizabeth. And it's a huge honor for me. It's because I could show them there is a world. It's we say hierarchy, poverty, gender, rich, poor, big, small, like all these things we say. I think it's again, I said that, how you look at it. Like, if I kept on looking at myself that this is not possible, I think not possible is something that I really like to delete from my dictionary every day. Or impossible. That's something is like, do not show me that word. I think that's something I got to know when I was young. If I keep on saying impossible, everything will come impossible towards me. It's up to me how I look at life. That helped me with these girls to look at their life, and they looked at mine. Um, we shared, like these moments together, and at least they know that this is poverty is not like a byborn thing. Let's say it this way. At least there is like a that willpower can get you
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah. I think one of the most deceptive form of education that pretty much all societies is not explaining the structural reasons why certain things exist. Not so. Let's say you see somebody who is amazingly successful in certain aspect of life, someone's life, and then they will attribute their success to luck. I'm not saying that people do not make from obscurity to remarkable success, but I will also contest by saying that that's an exception. That's not an example. Most heroes lose the battle. Most good deeds are severely punished. Truths are rewarded the way Socrates was rewarded with hemlock. If you speak truth to the power, power will not sit idle, welcoming you. Hello, Elizabeth. How are you? How can I help you today? So understanding that structure is violent, and understanding that one of the most dangerous form of violence that we commit in our brain, through our knowledge and teaching, not teaching young people why, but saying what. Oh, these girls surf. I'm sure that if Shobe or they were coming from incredibly privileged families, I don't think that would be a question. Like, okay, you're supposed to surf. I mean, at least that's what
Yeah,
the
yeah.
place. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
One of the hardest thing I feel when I was watching the documentary, you spent about 3 years with these girls, but the documentary is about 1 hour, a few minutes long. So there comes to the point
90
that you
minutes.
have
Yeah.
90 minutes. Yeah. So 90 minutes documentary after 3 years of filming. Uh, so what are some of the hard choices you had to make? Like, you had to cut, but you had a hard time
150
deciding.
hours of footage. Yes.
So could you tell us the challenge of a filmmaker of boiling down 150 hours of
I
footage to
hated
90
it.
minutes? There you go. Research. Tell us more about it. What are some of the things you wish you could keep? You still are not
I
sure that, if it was the best decision to not including them.
No, I think I hated it in a way. I cried. I literally cried. There were several times, and my friend had to go through my all this madness. I cried. I called my friends and I said, "This is we have to cut this out." I shouted. I fought with my producer, Lolita. Thanks to her, um, you know, and she was really strong. She's like, "No," and I was like, "Yes." It's like, "No, just tell me why you want to add that." And then I used to think night after night and come back and I was like, "Yeah, I think we can delete it." it's it was a tough decision as a storyteller when I have 150 hours of footage, which is full of drama, absolutely full on, 100%. This sometimes we make fun. We say that we can make like series only on Shobe Maharaj, only on her character. Like she is so articulate, she is so expressive. She had a lot of things happen in her life that we can, that there can be 3-part, 2-part series. And the challenges on the way I had is just to make, best for the story. I always believed what is best for the film, for the story. That's something was kind of, how should I say, inbuilt in me. I remember, if you ask me where did I get that from, now I remember when I was working, my first work in media was an intern with Catherine Masood and Tariq Masood for their film Runway. This is something happened off the record. I remember that Catherine was editing, and I asked her that, we were editing all night together. And she always wanted me to be with every department and learn about all the departments that filmmaking has, so that I understand what I'm passionate about. So I was with her when she was editing. We already did the sound, sound mix and everything, and the scenes were nicely done. Other editors did it. So she was there. She was editing everything. She was working on one scene from, I think she started working at 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. And by 5 a.m. in the morning, she deleted that whole scene. I was like, what just happened? So I was like, oh, okay, so you're going to add it later? She's like, no, we don't need that scene. And I was like, what? I started talking about all the hardships that we had to go through to do that scene. I was like, Catherine, do you have any idea? You were not there that day. We were doing this, we were doing that. Whole night we were filming, She was like, I don't care. This is not going with the story. And that's something was my cruel experience. I was shocked, speechless, and I couldn't sleep. Like at 5 a.m., she was like, okay, tomorrow you have your university class, just go to sleep. And I was like, oh, I can't get my head around that. So one thing she said to me, she said, what happened yesterday is something you're lifelong learning. Is that when I'm editing, she said that when she's editing, or any editor is editing, we have to be really, we have to concentrate on making the best of the film. Sorry. And not what we want to show. And not what the director, of course, there can be director's cut. We all know that. But to make the best film, if we want to come up with one cut, this is what I want. That's not going with the whole film itself. So every time I had that struggle, I used to bring myself outside of the film as a director, as a filmmaker. It wasn't easy, of course. It took me a lot of my own journey and dilemma. I used to ask questions. My friends used to ask me questions like, don't cry. Look at the whole thing and then think, why do you want to show it? And sometimes I could hear myself saying, as a film student, definitely, I'm going to say it. I'm not going to hide it. I could hear myself saying, I want to show it because the access I had with that scene, it shows how incredible I am. The access I had, there were scenes, it's amazing scenes, but it's just I would bet no one has ever seen that kind of tradition or things happens in Bangladesh. I could get it, but that's not going with the scene. That's not going with the whole scene. I mean, the whole film. There were questions. My friends even asked me questions like, why it is important to you. Is it something that you want to keep, or is it something that your ego is knocking you down? And I don't say that I don't have ego. I think as a human being, we all have both sides of the coin within us. It's about the balance that we create. Um, Definitely, I had that boost. It was like, yeah, that's my story. I want to tell it this way. But at the same time, then again, I look at it from the bird's eye view, and then I was like, no, it's not at all going. Like it's just because there was no. I wouldn't say every scene should have resolution, but there were moments when the scene is not ending with anything, or there is nothing. We are not being able to. I'm pretty sure the audience would love to know what happened. Curiosity after that, and that wasn't leading anywhere. So why would I keep it? I mean, sorry, I'm like making it really long, but that was really like the the amount of time I spent in the edit, the amount of struggle I had with my whole team, and again, I say that I thank my producer is really well experienced. At least she had that. I was like that intern Elizabeth, and she was like that Catherine Masood saying like no. Uh, but I don't regret. I remember there were moments when without first we did one cut, which both her and me were not happy about, and I was lucky that she believed in that. And then we had this film independent program where I was selected for the documentary lab, and we both could see that same feedback is coming, which is going on in our head. We were like, wow. And then she asked me that we're going to reopen the first 20 minutes. Are you okay with that? I said, just go, open it, because it's for the best of the film. That's what I kept on saying. And she was like, I've never seen any director, being so confident and let us open the film again. I said, yes, because at the end of the day, we want to tell a story that is best and best for these girls, where people understand these girls. We have a responsibility towards these girls. I wouldn't lie. Like we did say that, the world will see their films. So there was a kind of outer pressure behind this film to, be responsible and be respectful towards the girls.
I will come back to this question later, but before that, speaking about your exposure to international film schools and having these mentors not only in Bangladesh. How should I frame it without sounding too rude? Anyway, but I'm going to say it anyway. I feel sometimes wary about documentary film in places like Bangladesh. When the stories are told, like a text, you can't find the meaning of a text without its context. You may have produced a film of 90 minutes of these three girls, but your consciousness has access to ocean worth of materials which were which was being trained from your childhood in so many references, and which is why you were able to tell the story responsibly. And here is the what I am focusing the phrase: telling a story responsibly. Now I'll go to the historical violence of telling the story from a perspective which is not the people's own. So you have had a double whammy. You are a woman, you are from a minority community from Bangladesh. If anybody don't understand that Elizabeth de Costa doesn't sound like a very Muslim name. If somebody doesn't know what the minority status means. But you told a story. But I feel very sometimes when the Western filmmakers go to a place like Bangladesh, spend there probably 2 weeks, confidently portrays a story, and that becomes the truth. I don't see it as telling a story responsibly. You as a filmmaker, you having the insights into marginalized positions in so many places. How do you contest it, argue with it, debate with it, dialogue with it when you go to places like New York, you come to places like Toronto, and you have conversations with international filmmakers?
Well, this is something that I've been throughout the journey. I've been through. Hello, can you hear?
Yeah. Yes, I can hear you. You're mute again. Yeah.
Can you hear now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened is, while when I first looked at the girls when they were selling the jewelry at the beachside, and the same girls were roaming around. I think I said the story several times, like they were roaming around with the surfboards. I really wanted to focus on them, but at the same time, there was a nice, one of the documentary was made, not on these girls, like other girls from Cox's Bazaar, and then not documentary, like short television uh, TV pieces, and then they were highlighted internationally in different media. But when I saw those and observed those, that's the first thing I say to the coach Rashid and his wife Vanessa. I say, yes, people highlighted these girls, their stories. That we can see they're like all over New York Times and other news channels, ABC and other news channels. They're there. But I think everybody is like showing that, okay, this is Shabi Mehraj, or this is Shumi. This is the girl coming from Bangladesh, and they're surfing, and despite hardship, they're surfing. But I felt there was something missing, a missing puzzle, a puzzle that actually talks about, like when we say the struggle, what are the struggles they're going through every day? Do we see that? Did we see that? When they're saying they're harassed, where is the harassment? Like, how much do we know about girls getting harassed in Bangladesh? When we say my parents are abusive, it's an emotion that you cannot just show within a day or 10 or 20. That emotion, it took me 3 years. End of 3 years, I think that was the first time Aisha's dad was actually in front of my camera, and I could see his raw emotion in front of my camera. So that didn't happen within 20 days. When I went to their house first before starting the film, and I saw that the same little Jahanara, that's another girl, how she was different. I couldn't explain why she was different. Sometimes it happens with me. Like I cannot explain or describe what is happening, but something is happening. My gut says something is happening. So when I saw her in the house, that's the first time I was like, this is something different. There is a contrast. There is a contrast. Her being inside house, her being on the surfboard in sea, at the sea, and I couldn't give name to that feeling or that contrast that time. I just wanted to capture it. I just wanted to capture that raw emotions. I felt this is different. Um, I think we all wear same different hats, right? Like we all have this, like you being sometimes when you're a father, when you are a son, when you are a teacher. There's like all these different contrasts. I think that's something was I was trying to see through their eyes, and that's what made me like curious and go forward and tell their stories, because I couldn't see it in international media. Saying that, when we went with the film in different networks or with different film festivals, or not film festival, we went to two different film festivals through Chicken and Egg, and we pitched the stories. I could see a film that talks about this girls' empowerment, this girls, the positivity of Bangladesh. It had, until I made it, it was not possible for me to explain through words, and it was kind of double. Devil was playing around me, like, first, I come from Bangladesh, how well my footage will be. Second, I am a first-time filmmaker from Bangladesh, so how deeper the claim that I'm making, like I will go into their lives, how much do I know about storytelling that I can, be that, like famous filmmakers who spend years and years, like 47 Up filmed like that, like for 47 years they've been filming and filming every 7 years, right? So it took me those challenges. I had to prove myself. Again, I'm referring Lalita because I wasn't alone on my own. I think her push was also there. It's like, how many filmmaker comes for. First of all, when we were in Amsterdam in International Documentary Film Festival in Amsterdam, ITFA, the first thing she said, how many films do you see coming from Bangladesh every year? A country like, and made by Bangladeshi filmmaker, and made by Bangladeshi woman filmmaker. That's what she said, like bam, bam, bam. And I remember one of the person who was host one of the workshop, he just said, just come, join my panel. If I am not able to let you be in this panel, then this panel is for who? It was so nice gesture to, let me in the community and see the world and explore and understand the international media. There were people definitely who didn't believe, who didn't think that this is a story that will come up ever. This is, I think we all always get this, like, they're on your path. They're like, there are some people who will support and some people who won't. So there were people who made comments like, this is not going to happen, or this is not a film, or this happened, so it's not possible. You won't be. Oh, you don't have a crew. I'm doing my own filming and sound and everything, and the light myself. Like, I'm doing everything myself. The quality will be questioned. Stuff like that were there, but our passion was also there, and people who believed in our passion were there. They said, go ahead. There were people from BBC Storyville even said, keep on going. Like, I'm not going to discourage you. Your project is not mature. It's not like I'm discouraging you, but I'm saying that this is not mature, but keep on filming. I think those little comments helped to go ahead. And
I'm going to push you on that again, a little bit more, and it's very confrontational as well, I know. So I will give you example of knowledge production in academic setup. So one of the things that I feel like a lot of the times, the politics of knowledge production is not questioned. Your work, film, has a striking similarity there. So when you go into international film festivals or when you collaborate with international filmmakers, particularly Western filmmakers, if it is possible at all for you, could you tell us that some of the, if it is bluntly, if it is not, it's your prerogative. I'm not gonna give me an answer. I'm not gonna do that. What are some of the most obvious things you think that the Western filmmakers don't see, but they need to see if they want to be conscientious storytellers, not perpetuate the coloniality of knowledge production, coloniality of storytelling? This is how we see it. This is our vantage point, and hence it is universal.
Yeah, both sides of the coin. That's it. That's how I say always. Show both sides of the coin. I mean, it's when I'm saying, even in my film, when the whole family drama, the whole family is against the girls, whole family has that, anger against the girls, but we also could hear what the family has to say. I didn't delete them. I didn't just say that, family, because I witnessed it. If let's say when my dad say that do not shout, um, I didn't immediately. I'm not saying that, like, just I'm going to delete him out of my life. I think he was that push that made me come this forward. He was that challenge on my path that made me question myself more.
Yeah.
He was that villain in my story, in my life. I say it. um, so it's just like that. Like when international media is bringing something, a story from somewhere, like Bangladesh, like Nepal, like I could hear one of the filmmaker from Nepal. I think I could hear he was saying like, we're not always about monks and mountains. I mean,
Yeah.
how does that feel as a human? Like, we're not always about monks and mountains. We're not always about poverty. We're not always about um, struggle. Not always. The reason I'm saying not always, it's because the amount, the minute we say Bangladesh, it's already, there are some tick points that are like, oh, check, 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 check. This is Bangladesh. But Bangladesh is also beautiful. We have amazing tourism sites. We have amazing greeneries. We have I think that's also about, like, how we look at any country and then narrow it down to everyone's story. So if
The
we were,
documentary.
yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. No?
Sorry to cut you off. You were finishing.
No, carry on.
So, I mean, the documentary film that comes to my mind is Born in Brothels by Zaina. I forgot her
Yeah.
last name. So, where she wasn't a teacher. She was a
Yeah.
photographer. She gave
Yeah.
camera to these young children and asked them, "Okay, you tell your story." Um, um, the Indian American filmmaker Meera Nair.
Yeah.
She has initiative in Uganda where she trains
Mhm.
Ugandan storytellers to
Mhm.
tell their story.
Mhm.
Do you think not to perpetuate the stereotypical Bangladesh defined in their ways of defining, um, what can be done so that storytellers in Bangladesh can tell their stories without being told by. I know the intention. I know there are people, who have good intentions. I'm not, I'm not throwing the baby with the bathwater. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the expression. I'm not throwing the baby with the bathwater.
Yeah.
So, do you think how do you think about those initiatives like Meera Nair in Bangladeshi context?
I think now that I'm affiliated with some of the documentary organizations, the first thing that we struggle is everyone is not looking at the story. And I will say a really brutal reality is that I feel that everyone is running after fame or festivals or stuff like that in the beginning. Yeah, people can ask me that question. Elizabeth, your film is in the festival circuit. My film is in the festival circuit because my film is an universal story. I know about my story. I know what I wanted to tell. I knew that this is a story that everyone can relate to. And the story I wanted the world to see, not only, um, it's and festival is it's like that's something we wanted to like target one, and when we got the hot dogs at the beginning, it was like a big honor, and we knew that from here, of course, we will be able to um, at least tell the like there are people who will at least see the films through online or in the theater. But our main target, if you ask me, very, very particular target with this film is to support the girls from day one. Since day one, me and my producer, we wanted something that comes towards these girls. We wanted something that an impact campaign. Let's say this way. This is something very new for Bangladeshi documentary industry. That's something we wanted from day one. That's like the girls are our main. We were really sad when hot dogs happened during the pandemic and girls couldn't. I couldn't fly. Girls, Shobe was supposed to. It would have been amazing if she was in the festival. And then later on we got other film festivals, even still now we're getting festivals, and we're sad that she isn't there. We're not being able to take her. So our part with this film, we knew that this is our goal. I'm not saying that it's bad if someone has a goal to only show it in the film festival and get the fame. That's fine too, but be honest about it. I'm being really brutal towards our filmmaker here in Bangladesh. It's that if I want to tell these stories, like I have new films, I'm curating other films and doing research on those, my upcoming films. And I know which one to take it where. It's not every film I'm making only for film festival or fame. I have a responsibility towards also a response as a responsible citizen. I want to document some of the stuff that really is important to document right now. So that's what I'm trying to say. As a storyteller, even if it's a small 1 minute story, just tell your story, not like this is the design I want, this is the style I want. They're so into style and equipment and I don't know, some kind of genre they caught themselves into so much. It's like they're missing the whole point of this filmmaking journey. If you ask me where did I get suddenly why am I saying and where did I get this from, coming from Bangladesh and being Bangladeshi, how come I have different perspective that storytelling is the first thing, key point. I think it's definitely, again, I'm going to repeat again and again, my mentor Catherine always used to say, you have that poka, you have that worm in your head, always talking. I said, yes, it's just it keeps on talking. I cannot stop. It's about stories. So from day one, we're thinking on stories. We're not thinking on how we will shoot it, how we will produce it, how we will, definitely funding is an issue, but that's something I'm learning myself too, like distribution and funding. But to do that, unless my access and my story is confirmed, I'm not confident enough to move anywhere. That same thing I did with Bangla Surf Girls. The minute the access and the whole, trust was there, I felt like this is what I want to tell. So if you ask me to compete, to bring our stories internationally, I think that's that this is something we have to believe in my stories. Like me as a filmmaker, I have to believe in my story. That's something I keep on saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember in one interview I've heard Shotyajit was asked this question, I think an American interviewer, that do you think that your film falls into this genre or that genre? And then he very confidently answered, no, this is departure from, the traditional Hindi film that you have out of nowhere, you have a bunch of people bursting into songs and dances. Life isn't about, songs and dances. That doesn't happen in real life. So he has his unique. Rinal Sen had similar,
Mm-hmm.
like, talking about life as it is, something very ordinary, seeing the extraordinary in the ordinary.
Yeah.
At the same time, Shotyajit Ray had the confidence. Of course, I wasn't alive at that time, so I don't know. Of course, I was alive. I didn't know, what was happening in Kolkata. Sorry when I said that. But he was very confident in saying that I make the kind of films that I want to make.
Mm-hmm.
I make the kind of films that engages my creativity, my imagination. And he was at some points he wasn't very happy in terms of the mainstream Indian audience who wants to see films, Salman
Mm-hmm.
Khan, this Salman
Mm-hmm.
Bhai, and all of that. The last question to you: what is the number of years that you have been making documentary films, working in fiction film? When I listened to your story, particularly, hearing that story of Catherine Masood, editing a scene and then deleting it by the end of the night, it feels like a terrible choice. a career choice to make, like, you spend the entire night and then you realize, no. Sorry, just came out, maybe it came out wrong. What would be your some of the learnings you would want to share with the young documentary filmmakers, fiction filmmakers, who want to take Bangladeshi stories, our stories, whether it is national level or international level?
I think, first of all, know your story. Please. That's something I think we are all struggling here. Uh, Dhaka Documentary Lab, which is, actually working on curating, helping new generation of documentary filmmakers, and bring them under one umbrella, make them meet with the decision maker, which is international decision makers. So I'm really like amazed about what they're doing. Sometimes I get to work, not work like I help Tariq by the director of Dhaka Documentary Lab. I see proposals, I see pitches, and it breaks my heart. Again, brutal truth. It breaks my heart to see there are amazing stories, beautiful stories these filmmakers are bringing. I could see the story in it, but I doubt if they're seeing the story in it. And I'm not the filmmaker of that story, so they will have to see the story. I won't be able to make them see it. If you ask me to make the story on that particular topic, yeah, I will make it from my perspective. Oh, yes. But I'm proud that there are lots of amazing stories. But how many are storyteller? This is a big question. Um, Even if you're a storyteller, how much are you passionate about stories? Then, I don't know, like trying to find out the genre, trying to put words in it, or trying to make it like say things or promise things which are not possible. When I used to make a film, sometimes I used to come back after a whole day of filming. Me and my producer used to talk every day. I used to call her saying, "Oh, this things happened." So excited. And then she was like, I think first 5-6 days she heard, and she said, "Did you get any of that?" I said, "No, it's because this was happening, that one happening." She was like, "Then from now on, even if you don't get it on camera, don't talk to me about those." I was first few weeks, I was like, what did she say? Of course, it took me time to understand why is that. And then when I allowed myself to, like, those moments, those kind of, like, we talked about this, like this kind of moments we don't have, this kind of scene we have, this kind of scenes we don't have. So I made a list and I started filming with, I was going with the lists. And then I was like, wow, this is the story. This is what we're talking about. This is why we're spending time. It's not the story that I'm telling with, like, oh, I saw this, I didn't get it on camera, but I'm jibber jabbering about it. No, it's just something that I captured with all the trust, with all the raw emotion, and I came back, and this is what I wanted. And now I want the whole raw emotions to be raw in my edit phase. But this is what we wanted from day one. Like, we will go through a roller coaster in the film. It will be a journey with, let's keep it girls being girls. Let's not take away. Of course, the kids, they're 12 years old. They're going to talk too much. Like, trust me. They were talking a lot. So this is not about, like, oh, if someone comes to me saying, this is the behavior, this is what I wanted, this is the raw emotion. You cannot just expect kids to, like, answer really nicely, professionally, and very, if that's one day I want to make that kind of story, which is like more poetic and not that many, dialogues are in there, like the imagination, the image will speak 1,000 words, but that's like different. So I know that what that film would be. So again, I'm coming to this same point, is like storytelling, and me coming from film background, education in ULab and University of Dhaka, is, I think, something that we always, I have a passion for my fellow filmmakers too, right? I really want more storytellers to come up. It's not only I'm going to make films. Of course, I want the whole Bangladeshi delegates to go work hand in hand and walk in the film festival and say we are from Bangladesh. One day I really want that, and I'm pretty sure it will happen.
I said that was the last question, but if I don't ask the question, I'll beat myself up later. In the process, you said that, there's a difference between a story and a storyteller. You have had the privilege of working with some of the best filmmakers of Bangladesh. You were under the mentorship of Tarek Masood. You worked with Catherine Masood. You have worked in BBC. You have gone to many international places for either workshop training, and you're also teaching. What makes a great storyteller, and what have you learned about yourself in the process of storytelling that you did not know before you embarking on the journey of storytelling?
What makes a great storyteller? I think that's a beautiful question that I keep asking myself. This is something I didn't believe myself that I had it, to be honest. I used to write, I used to film, but not like, I didn't know when I'm talking to someone, I had like a storytelling pattern, like a beginning, middle, and end. That's, I'm talking from a technical, like, as a film student, I'm talking from that perspective. I didn't know it until one of my friends, again, I think I'm lucky with my friends around me. One of my friends pointed it out. We were working, and I was like standing at the Naf River in Cox's Bazar. Like, while I was filming my own film, sometimes I used to go to the Rohingya camp and film there. And he said, "You are a storyteller. Just feel it." And I was like, "Oh no, I'm just filming." And he said, "No, you are a storyteller. You need to start believing in it." I was like, "No, I mean, definitely when some friends say to you, you never say yes to that. Of course, we want to go against them. That's our friendship. um, but then I came back and I started writing my experiences. I could feel until I was happy with it. I kept on writing. I think filmmaking, that's how I see it. Until I was happy, my hunger was served. Hunger for telling something. I think I kept on going. I kept on filming for 3 years. By the end of 3 years, I could feel it. This is the end. There were moments I was like, no, I will keep on getting surfing shots. And my producer was like, no, I have to stop you here. There is no more scenes you can get. I said, yeah, actually, the day I filmed the last scene, I felt it. It was those feeling, like the wave. If you watch the film Shuma, that was the last day when I said, she actually asked me finished, like Shesh, because she knew this is the end of the film. And I knew when the minute she asked me that question, I knew this is the end. But as a storyteller, as I said, I had to go walk, do that, take on that journey to be able to tell the story. I think that's what made, from my perspective, made me a good storyteller. I don't know if I'm a good storyteller, but I would say that a storyteller to move forward and serve my hunger of telling something.
And in the process of telling your story, what have you learned about yourself that you did not know before embarking on that journey? That was the other part of the question.
Yes, what have I learned? I've learned if I'm making my next film, I've learned those like how I will rectify my mistakes. There were mistakes that I made in my Bangla Surf Girls. I think everyone does that in the first work. I want to, from that mistake, I want to take that journey and lessons to my new film and make some new mistakes.
But that's a technical mistake. But what have you learned about Elizabeth in the process of
that's
learning?
What you meant.
That's
Okay.
in the process of being a storyteller.
I think I've right now, for me, if I look at any film or any stories, let's say, as a storyteller, the whole journey of 3 years really, really deeply rooted inside me now, and I can see that sometimes it gets easier to make decisions about stories or to take decisions, like which I used to struggle a lot when I was filming Bangla Surf Girls. I was struggling between a sister and a filmmaker. I cannot save everyone, but I think the work I'm doing is something that I want to keep on focusing on and keep on working. Yeah, I think that's something I've learned.
That's wonderful. Wonderful, Elizabeth. I look forward to see your future work and engaging in very critical, uncomfortable, and courageous conversations with you, and see that how in the process of your making you unfold in front of you to understand you better, to see the nooks and corners and ridges that was once hidden to you, but you understand it better now with those great ambitions. We thank you very much.
Well, my apologies if I don't know. It like with the fever, sometimes I think I jibber jabber a little bit more. So I'm sorry about that if I, sometimes didn't answer your question properly.
You answered the question perfectly well. Can you stay back one minute? So our audience, thank you very much for being with us. We look forward to have you listen to you, see your questions in future. Have a great evening in Bangladesh, or morning or day, wherever you are listening this conversation from. Bye-bye.
Thank you.